So this is,
I mean, I'll follow you whatever you do, if you want.
All right.
I mean,
pretty,
that means opposed to me leading it to
Right.
minor third away or something like that. Yeah.
a minor third, a relative minor can do.
Okay.
So what we could do is
Right,
we could
right.
start in C,
Okay.
and we could just like, I don't even know what we do, but let's come up. Okay, I'm not hitting you. Let's see.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was happening last time, just kind of connecting so simply.
Yeah. If we were talking to people about this,
Yes.
I know that what happened for me
Uh-huh.
is that a form started, well, I just started playing that,
Yeah.
and then when you started playing, I started looking for a chord progression.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time I came to the A minor,
Yeah.
and then I went down,
Yeah.
I realized, oh, I'm not playing, I went down to F natural, and you did something
I
different,
went
and I
to
was
the
like,
F sharp, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
and so I was like, oh, okay.
That was just out of habit in a way. It's
Well,
like
no,
something
but it was
like that.
great,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I didn't, then I started guessing, like, wait a minute, is
Yeah.
that always supposed to be an F sharp? Like,
Yeah.
as if there was an always.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and then I remember it took, and I kept noticing that we kept going, we'd go back to the beginning,
Uh-huh.
that thing that felt good.
Yeah, yeah.
whatever that was, that
Yeah, yeah.
came at first. And then we kept trying to find a form, and then finally we found a form.
Uh-huh.
That made sense, you know, then when you look at it, you're like, oh, it's just this,
Yeah,
this, this.
I didn't think of necessarily as like a form so much as that, like, I heard you going to the A minor. I was thinking, well, you know, okay, she said it's not diatonic, but what if I throw an E7 in there to get to the A minor?
Right.
And you sort of, but you, exactly, I sort of didn't know if you could do that, then I heard you trying to do something.
Right.
Mostly I was saying, okay, it's like, I can still play the E7 even you don't do it, because you're leaving it, the third kind of open sometimes.
Right.
But, and the A minor, then I kept on hitting the F sharp, it's like, oh shit, this is like not what's good, this is an older progression sort of,
Well, I wanna
still
hear it
kind of
though.
work. Yeah,
Oh,
it
so
does,
that
yeah,
would be
yeah.
like,
Yeah, or
Oh, so
but
you
you go
just-
to the F or not go to the F, but
oh,
yes, yeah.
okay. So I think what my students would ask about
Uh-huh.
is like, how would you even know that there was how would you even have something that you would be wondering, is it this or that?
Okay, that's a great question. So, okay, so the whole vibe of the thing is I was hearing like very, I almost felt like guilty we were too happy.
Right, it was happy. I love that about
Me
it, by
too,
the
but I
way.
was saying it's like so happy and so lyrical. It's kind of what I do all the time. I'm supposed to be here to sort of like add more depth to my
Oh, okay,
playing.
we can
It's
do
like-
that next.
Yeah, but it's like, that's sort of like bullshit. That's sort of like, I'm a happy person. Why shouldn't I be able to sort of play happy? If I don't like it, find someone depressed to play the music for.
Well, that's interesting though, but
That's not-
when I started out, I mean, I think that actually is a happy, that's happy.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
why?
So the sixth. Yeah, and it's very major, very yeah, very yeah. It's interesting. So other things, so like harmonically,
Uh-huh.
I wasn't thinking that much harmonically, but let's say you'll put in sus chords there a lot. Probably without even realizing there's sus chords to think about. It's just a natural thing to play in the harp.
You mean
know?
like this?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And that. So you know, I don't really, from my playing, I'm very knowledgeable about theory. I've got good ears in terms
Uh-huh.
of chords. I don't really sort of recognize sus chords as being anything other than
The dom.
open, or it's open. You know, I don't even think of this being sort of like dominant. It just sort of seems like it's like a sound. So there's, to my mind, we're going from that really, let's say, happy sound, for lack of a better word, a positive to a sound that's like neutral, which is what sus is. Just which way are we gonna go from there when you play that chord? So
wow.
most of the time, I figure, you know, because I can go to the minor right from there. If you want to. Yeah, or you can go from the sus to the A minor.
What did you, to the what,
Or
to
to
the
the
E minor?
A minor even. To the A minor. Yeah,
This is,
exactly.
oh, sorry. So
Yeah.
this, oh, you were talking
Yeah.
about from the E, from an E sus.
No, from the,
From G
what key
sus?
we in?
We're in the key of C.
Yeah, from the G sus, yeah. To the A minor. To the A minor, it's
Isn't this an A minor?
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you mean-
no, yeah. Sorry,
Oh,
Alice.
which one?
Yes,
Yes,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
From
yeah,
what, from the G sus to what?
Yeah, to the A minor, yes. yeah.
Okay. What would happen if, okay, that doesn't, I went to E minor, but okay.
Exactly, yeah. As opposed to going back to the major.
Back to the
So
C.
it's like, yeah.
And so you think it's easier to go from a G sus to A minor?
Oh, no, not at all,
Than
no.
from a G
No,
sus?
not at all.
Interesting.
Well, either all I'm just saying is the G sus
Yeah,
is very like open
Well-
from my standpoint. I don't really.
Well, no, you're right. It actually, just from a vocabulary standpoint, if I say G sus, it is a more open thing than if I say
Sure, yeah.
G7 flat 9.
Yeah, oh, definitely more open, yeah. That directs me somewhere. I sort of kind of, quote unquote, have to go with where you're going.
You have to go to C. You kind of, if I go,
Or it makes it, whatever I go, it makes it more exact, you know?
makes it more exact?
Yeah, and I have to be a little more precise about it.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't mean it's like,
Okay.
so, whereas the sus is just like, oh, this is great, it's just a bunch of notes in
It is
C.
kind of a
Yeah,
bunch of
yeah,
notes, right?
Yeah. And it can be a G sus, it can be like a D sus, it almost doesn't matter what sus it is, if it's just a button. It's just a button, but again, the harp, it just sounds really cool notes in C that like sort of like that. So that sort of allowed me to kind of like either sort of make the happiness a little bit more, a little bit less kind of like in your face, sort of like maybe more, and put a little bit of ambiguity in there.
Into the happiness?
Yeah, which made me feel like, because I feel like this can't just be, like, happiness can be sing-songiness like really easily, you know, and it's like, I actually don't even want to dance that much, but it felt like, it's like, since we're video, we should have a little more kind
All right,
of
let me just see, okay, that's videotaping and that's video, okay,
Yeah.
good, it looks like it is videotaping.
we
All right,
should have a
so,
little more, you know, but
we should have more Veritas, is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Even
So-
just a
okay,
bit,
so
yeah.
let's see if we can do that.
Okay. I thought I just did, but okay, let's do it.
Oh, you think-
No, but let's make it more Veritasi, okay?
Okay, so-
I'll play very differently.
Okay, you're gonna play differently. Would I still do like a bossa? Or
Okay.
should I? Okay.
You can do it either way. I mean, from my standpoint, if I kind of layer less happiness on top of it, it can have like the gravitas we were seeking.
Okay, all right, so I'm gonna keep basically the same
Yeah, let's see what
progression.
happens with it.
Let's
Yeah,
see what happens. Okay, okay.
So take that, you deep thinkers.
Well, I immediately had to have an A flat.
Absolutely, that really totally changed it. Yeah, I mean, I didn't, you introduced that, I said, really, she's got the note, how long can she hold that note for without having to like, get rid of it to play some
I was
other
wondering
chord?
that too.
Yeah,
I wondered, and I,
but totally made a difference, yeah. So I did differently.
I was too scared to leave it,
Uh-huh.
but it would have been really interesting if, to do the progression.
Well, it's a little bit like a child is born at that point, you know that too?
I thought about that
yeah.
too. Yeah, I did think of that.
But, yeah, yeah.
Is that,
Da-da.
oh, is that,
It's got that chord, yeah, exactly. Then it goes to the, then it goes to the end. Yeah, so kind of, yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting, except that's a D7, I think, in the real. Yeah, yeah, but it sounds so much more keeping than everything else. That's the mind.
So,
yeah.
Is there a bridge to that song?
No, no.
Can we just try playing it?
Sure.
Second part. Okay,
well,
so
it's a little bit different. The first.
yeah. So what is the second part?
I'm sorry. That's what I'm. That's the yeah. I think it's the D7 for just a second.
Yeah, I probably have to. So the chords in the second part. Dum da 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 dum da da dum da da da. It just goes to F.
F minor.
Yeah. Okay. Well. So again, the second part.
Yeah.
Dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 da.
Sorry, that is a F major to F minor. Yeah.
F major 7 and then major da.
Yeah. That'll work. Yeah.
If I could do that. Da da da. And this is what I don't know. I think I'd have to get the book to get it. I think I have to get the book to figure it out. But that's really beautiful. It's
But so getting back to what we did, so I started to make it dark. I like sort of like cut back on the melody, sort of made the melody more spread out.
Oh,
that's what I made it play melody before, but less melodic, less up and down lines, more kind of contained. So it didn't, so rather than going the happy thing, unhappy. Like darker, just
Also, you were in the. Isn't that the Shalamo?
Very good. Yeah. But I was in the Shalamo before too. But
really?
It was just. But I was throwing some notes which I knew would probably clash, like the B flat. But it worked. I said, well, okay, I'm going to throw in the B flat. I'm going to throw in the D flat and see if that works. So play some. I'm going to try to use both of them.
Okay. Are we going to play our gravitas moment?
Yeah.
Okay, I might not get it all, but okay.
Not really.
What note was that?
The B flat to the A flat.
Okay.
But you don't have to hit it. It's
But it would be interesting. It's just interesting to think about as a chord to play it.
Then I threw in the D flat. So play it for that.
This is so cool though.
What are they gonna shoot me?
Right.
It's like arrest me. It's like so you know, some clashes are really nice.
But now I really like this. Oops, I got happy. Nice.
Pretty amazing. It's like, I think of like students who would have like, well, or most students like, what would you play? How do you know what's happening next? What do you know what to do? Are you scared of making wrong? Everyone's like so scared of playing.
And I was,
scared of playing wrong
and I
notes
was
and
too.
stuff.
And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what key I'm in. I don't know where. And then at a point I thought, okay, forget about that. What if I did all the gestures that I would normally do if I knew what key I was in?
Yeah.
And just see what would happen and like let go of it.
I mean, the only time I was in a key, really specifically, when I was in E minor, and I think you were playing an A minor, you were in an E minor.
Right, I was in E minor. For a little while I was actually in E minor.
And I stayed there for quite a while.
Right.
But as I say in a key, I mean, overall I'm still in C in my mind, basically C, A minor-ish. And all the other stuff is just kind of like add-ons. So I'd throw stuff against it. Well, once I got to a point, once we've been playing for like, that thing, I don't know how long it went off, let's say, what's the fourth or fifth minute? No, let's say everything, the whole bit.
Mm-hmm.
If we went into fourth or fifth minute, I'm thinking, well, again, why not just throw in some stuff like, stretch it a little bit harmonically?
Right, like who cares?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's so interesting how we get, Beethoven talked about the tyranny of the bar line, but I'm thinking about the tyranny of like, you gotta play the right note. And one of the things I realized in the middle of this is like, somehow we're following each other's gesture of music.
Yeah.
There's some gesture or vocabulary that's making sense to us.
Yeah.
And I don't know what, like I know when I don't know what I was playing. That meant something, I wasn't sure what it meant.
Well, so in my mind, I'm thinking, I mean, I can go with you, I can go against you. It's right, I wasn't thinking it analytically, like I should, but I was thinking like, it was like, I mean, well, also music refers to like other things. I'm thinking like Stravinsky at some point.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like when you do that, like a Russian march or something like that, which can all of a sudden like, this is cool, Stravinsky can do this. I mean, obviously, it's like a very poor man's imitation of another poor man's imitation of Stravinsky.
Or a poor woman's imitation of a poor
man's. Well, you were asking me who's thinking Stravinsky. But just so, which means all of a sudden I can layer a lot more stuff. I have a context that I'm sort of popped into my mind. So, I can do this. In other words, I'm not aware of doing a blues, but this is not a blues, or this is not a folk song, or this is not a jazz tune. This is kind of like can go wherever we want it to go. And like the clarinet is like fortunately very adaptable, being an orchestral instrument. The harp suggests so many different things. It's like, it can be like a string section doing that, it can be a harp doing it, can be like any,
it could be brass doing it?
But the point is, it's like, these are two sort of like fairly, it had like almost like a klezmer thing to it a little bit,
that's,
old world, that's more the rhythm part of it, but, but I mean, when you sort of like
I see,
notes,
so you actually could have gone, I don't know what the harmony, I don't know what I was playing, but you could have gone into an absolute klezmer thing from that.
Well, that was the E minor.
Okay.
Something like that. But I didn't want to, it felt like this is kind of silly after a while. You weren't really doing that, but just all the...
Well, yes, I was doing a circus. I was doing a circus there.
The circus works for me.
So I was ready for the elephants.
Well, then, so this is what I was thinking. So the part that's sort of being videoed is sort of like a tutorial, whatever it is, It's like, I was thinking, well, people should know that, like, playing like interactively with someone doesn't always mean like imitating,
Right.
That's the most. Right. They all play. You go da da da. I go da da da.
Right.
Which is fine. It's sort of much. It can be so much more interesting and developed than that, So.
Right, and one of the things I noticed when I was So we might want to talk about what are some of the other things that we were thinking, even if I would have to pull into.
Yeah.
But I do know there was one point where I was really interested in my technique.
Yes.
There was something I was doing technically. And then I realized, wait a minute, now I'm not listening to him. Because I was and I was like, I wonder if that's what happens to people when we're interested in a technique we're doing, then we stop.
That's often sort of fortunately I love what you're doing, so I just went with it.
Okay, right.
So it's like, but I see people who sort of so involved in their own playing, guitarists are often sort of like this, they're so involved in their own playing, they sort of turn with everybody else and sort of lose that whole sense of like what could be happening.
Right.
This is even in like form music and songs and stuff like that. They sort of get involved in like, I'm doing this because the guitar often is kind of like a game. Like, I can do that. And it's like that. So No, so I everywhere you went, I mean, since
So
I was
let's talk
doing
about
this-
some of the things we did, like some of the conventions. So some of the conventions for me were,
Okay,
when I wasn't clear what what harmony I had available to me. So that's sort of an accompanimental
Yeah.
convention. I was nervous because I didn't know what string, so this only has 7 strings per octave. And if you shift it, if I have E flats, then they're E flat.
yeah,
And if I haven't played it all my life, so I,
Right, yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
like, I don't know how to, and,
Yeah.
and I was like, it didn't matter, but still, that convention, even if it had gone up a step,
Right,
there
right.
was something conventional about that.
Yeah.
It said, this went to a different phrase. So what did it say? What
Yeah,
did
so it said, well, okay, use the term circus, I can really, so
Okay,
guys sort of
right.
more like kind of like some of them felt kind of Kurt Weill-ish, like theater music.
Oh, okay, all right.
I don't know if that's specific, but yeah,
Right.
a little
So
bit
that
sort of
almost
the
sounds
same.
like, what is it, this, Jenny,
Yeah,
the song from Kurt Weill.
Three Penny Opera.
Right,
Yeah, exactly,
okay.
yes. So it had, but also
Right.
more, you know, not specific, I mean, I did think specifically Kurt
Right.
Weill, but also the whole sort of like, musical, you know, theatrical, dramatic sort of like context of music, which is
Okay.
great, you know, because that's what you're setting
Right.
up something that like, you're doing it because you're creating a context or a reference for me or
Right.
the audience to listen to. You know, if we didn't care what anybody sort of, if there was no context or sort of like way to communicate, then we just go, it's kind of fun for me to do that, but no one's gonna like.
Right, it's just sort of physically fun. Well,
Yeah.
I think a lot of my students are wondering, what are you talking about? What is the context? Like, how do we do that? Because I think for them, and we keep talking about this, we keep talking about the difference between notes and gestures. Because there are gestures that we're doing.
Right, so the gesture would be, there are general things that create gestures, like playing in time,
Okay.
right? Playing within a harmonic context.
Okay.
These are all gestures.
Okay, so that gave predictability.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the gesture gives predictability.
Yep. And it's sort of like, and if you do one gesture long enough,
Right.
maybe it warrants a gesture that's unpredictable. In other words, not playing in time, or breaking up, if you're going ba, 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 like
Yeah.
eighth note E sort of.
Right.
Ba, 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 ba. So all of a sudden, I'm thinking, well, I can go da, 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 right with you. Okay, keep on doing it.
Just keep doing the same thing.
Okay, I've gotten tired of used up all my ideas. Okay, now be cleared by design. My next gesture.
Then I might copy
You
you
may,
there,
you
because
can
that's
have option to do it
interesting.
or not, but sometimes the weirdness is better if you
Yeah.
stay straight. and I
Right,
do something
right.
But not necessarily, both of them work.
Okay, and then another thing that I'm always saying to them is,
Yeah.
keep everything the same, change one thing.
Uh-huh.
So if I was gonna change one thing, I could change my bass notes, or I could change where I'm playing it. I could,
Yeah.
the gesture's the same.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great, yeah. And so then then when you did the more like percussive, like syncopated stuff, the da 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 da, so to me that's kind of like 20th
I
century
see,
sort
right.
of
But
classical.
and then I'm listening to your little tiny phrases.
Okay.
And what's the
like the arc or the
What's the
gesture
arc of
was-
each
yeah.
little tiny
Okay,
hook?
so
Yeah.
now I'm thinking, actually sometimes I'm thinking as opposed to
wait a
feeling.
minute, I think I don't know if that light is making, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so I'm thinking like, okay, this can get to be kind of like, for lack of a better word, sort of like infantile.
Right,
You know,
oh, really?
we'll go da-da-da-da-da-da-da for too
God.
long. Or, so what if I did something like really opposite to that? you
Okay,
know,
like?
Infantile in terms of music, yeah. So I'm kind of,
Right.
you know, I'm playing on top of you and sort of
Right.
using your thing as a, as, you know, a sort of foundation, which I can sort of layer this other
Right.
whole other thing on. So I don't know what you'd call that gesture, but it's sort of to me, it just makes total sense to, again, sort of, it's kind of bizarre to
I
have
would think it's almost like if you're dancing and then you're just like up and then you're just like fly. Like if it was a dance, you'd like up in the air and then you're just like flying.
kind of, yeah, or the kind, yeah,
Or
and
like
sort
you're
of,
like over the, I don't know,
but sort of floating over the,
Right.
but also floating is sort of like a sort of bizarre way, because the notes I'm choosing are sort of by design, kind of like taking you out of like, not you, taking
Yeah.
one out of an expected harmony, and sort
Oh.
of using notes that sort of subtly
Oh, I
clashing
see,
as
to
you're
push,
doing.
you can
Yeah,
push the
pushing
harmony,
the
right.
harmony away, because already we're sort of dropped sort of form in the harmonica. I couldn't tell you what chord you're playing, if you're playing a chord or scale.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you
right.
what scale I'm playing, I'm just playing
Right.
sounds that sort of sound like they kind of work against that.
Right.
Then you change your pattern.
Right, and then
And
I tried to make I took a pattern out of that, but then I
Right.
repeated.
Right,
Which I was
right.
hoping wasn't 4/4, I was hoping it was some angular that would,
That's so interesting. So when you start doing something, do it again.
I don't know what I did.
Yeah, okay, something. So I'm doing what you're, I started doing the exact same thing. I said, well, this is like, I just don't want to kind of go with you like the whole
Right,
time.
right.
So I started playing, making my phrases
Like,
asymmetrical.
Okay, so like we were both almost trying to be hemiolic. So making,
Yeah.
something that's not in the 4, but it's.
Yeah,
and
which
then-
layers over the 4. So,
Right,
yeah.
and then I was like, I'm here too long. How can I
Yeah.
change my bass note? How can I re-change
Yeah.
the foundation of what
Yeah.
I'm doing? So what is it called? Recontextualize it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, this,
It's a different piece of music now, sort of like a little bit, yeah, it's like.
it's changed. The foundation has changed,
Yeah.
right?
So the other thing is like, so you mentioned, I've been here too long. That to me is like the most like fundamental things in improvising. Like when you know you've been something too long or not.
Right.
It's just
I
intuitive.
know.
It depends on who you're playing with, depends on the type of music, but there's just, you have to develop a sense like that. Because, a big thing I hear is like, the playing is kind of boring. Well, it's not boring if you're engaged with it.
Right.
But as soon as you stop being engaged with it, then you switch to something else. And it just has to feel like, but you've been doing it for years, I've been doing this for years, it's like, I said, and maybe it is boring.
Right,
but it's,
well, I do say to them all the time, and everything I say to them, I'm hoping to hear,
Yeah.
which is, don't try to be interesting. Don't try to be interesting. Be interested in what you're doing.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
And yet there's also conventions that I'm following. Like, I mean, when I chose what's going to be my next note.
Yeah.
I'm always going to try a third down. I don't know why. I don't know
Are you
why.
thinking consciously or just that?
If I'm going to choose, if I'm in a nervous situation,
Yeah.
or I'm thinking, oh, I want to sound good. Well, what's the most likely thing that I'm going to like the sound of?
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
It's going to be a third down.
Wow. I've like never thought of anything like that in my life. But I'm playing a different instrument.
Right.
So I don't have
Okay.
to- yeah.
You don't have to redefine the harmony, right?
Well, I do.
So how do
Sometimes,
you redefine the
I
harmony?
redefine. Okay. The simplest was sort of like the most accessible way for me to understand is I just put half steps in there. So like sometimes half steps into the root, half steps that I can play and get out of easily. So play your C chord.
Wow, my C chord.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Get back to the C.
in a groove though.
In a groove. What
Yeah.
kind of groove? Give me.
It doesn't matter. It's a.
Yeah, I need it.
Okay.
Just tell me something.
Do a bossa again.
Okay. Okay.
Here's my half step. Next half step.
Wow.
Okay, so like stretch the harmony.
How could I do that?
But you don't, right, but you should say on the C for in terms of accompanying me.
Right.
Yeah,
But like I would keep that
So
bass,
I'm
right.
introducing first the A flat.
So you're talking about recontextualizing in a melodic instrument,
Yeah,
purely melodic
exactly,
instrument.
my
And I'm
part-
talking about it
Right.
in two ways: an accompanimental
Yeah.
instrument and with bass. Because I always
Yes,
tell my
yeah.
students there's 3 roles. There's the bass role, the accompaniment role, and the melodic role.
Right.
That's
right,
it.
Right.
And you know, you switch anyway, so that's, so
that-
here, I was, there, I'm changing the harmonic.
Yeah.
But the right hand is staying, the accompaniment staying the same.
So I forced something and I said, what does this half step sound like? It sounded awful. So it doesn't always work.
And meanwhile, I'm thinking, what would I do to make that one sound?
Well, and I was thinking,
so was it a B flat? Was it?
Yeah, both B flat
Okay.
and B flat. Yeah.
So what? I could, maybe I would do it with the big harp.
Well, it didn't even sound, not because it was wrong notes, it was sort of like the wrong.
Right.
Like not this music, and I was thinking like I want to do something different there. I mean, I did actually kind of want it to work.
Do it again. Push it.
Okay.
Let it sound really good. Let's see what happens. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Wow.
So I built
Really
up-
interesting, and I'm noticing what I'm doing. You know, so what so the first thing I tried was, my thought was,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in the way of his harmonic changes. That's how I interpreted it. So how can I get out of the way? Because I was really defining. So I thought, okay, let me get rid of, let me just go down to almost like fifths.
Yeah.
But that didn't even work. It started working when I had a chord that was quite undefined. C, G, and A.
Yeah.
And then I seemed to be much more open to anything that you wanted to do.
Well, the openness is, and they're both good. Like the openness is good. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
but I'm just thinking, like, if I was talking to students about what just happened in my brain.
Yeah.
What did I how did I try to fit with, how did I shift so that what you were doing would feel like I was with it.
Right, because actually I didn't even hear, I kept on stretching a little bit, but the way I would ordinarily stretch it, I mean, it wasn't anything. And the more I stretched a little bit more, maybe you're probably responding to it. And I stretched a little bit more. It always sounded okay to me. Yeah, it's like, so play your what you end up doing.
I think it was like this.
So it's a whole thing about sort of developing into it, and I sort of put it in there, and all sounded weird. All the notes I played sounded kind of weird to me because they weren't sort of set up. I don't know if you remember when we were doing the last thing, when you wanted me to like really land hard on that A flat to B flat. I had to like establish it like long enough, even to have it sound bad, as opposed to having it sound random. So here's the whole thing. What am I doing different than someone who doesn't know what they're doing?
Okay.
And,
How are you sounding bad? Right.
Yeah, it's like.
What are you doing different? You're doing it with intention.
Exactly, and I sort of am setting up the weird notes by playing sometimes normal notes before them, or sometimes I'm doing the weird, knowing that they're going to be weird and expecting that, and choosing them fairly carefully.
And you can also come off of them.
It's
almost like someone who can.
Yeah. Well, I was putting minor thirds in there. I was putting E flats in there. So.
to see what it was like.
Yeah, so-
And the other thing I noticed that I did when I was trying to accommodate is that I would sometimes hit the bass note and then wait to add anything else until I heard what you said. What you did.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great advice.
Right, and I can't always do it around.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So,
But I should say for accompanists out there, melody players, whatever we are, super sensitive to accompaniment, especially if it's bad. Sometimes you don't want people to imitate you, mimic you.
Oh, right.
Sometimes you want people to kind of just lay something down you can work off of. Other times you want much more interplay. But generally, it depends on the person. Sometimes I want interplay being kind of equal. I'm into that. In other words, sometimes I want interplay like you bounce off my ideas. Sometimes I want interplay and me bounce off your ideas. And that. So in a free thing like this, it's more equal. I'm into bouncing off your ideas a lot.
And you're playing in a stylistic style a lot. If you're playing in sort of bebop or
if I'm playing, certainly this is particularly talking to like a style. You know, it's like so people companies think I should do something interesting. Not really.
Right.
You know, I don't really care. You do something to stay out of the way mostly. You know? And sometimes the companies will think I've got this great reharmonization I'll do. Sometimes I'll like it. Let's say sometimes I won't.
So how do you let them know you don't like it? Do you?
I may give them a subtle look. I may just kind of like, if people know me, if I ignore it or play something different, they'll know I'm doing that by design. You know? So it's like, sometimes when people throw stuff out and it's like, haha, can you deal with this? Sometimes it's interesting, sometimes it's just, I mean, they do it with the best intentions, you know, but sometimes I just don't want to play that kind of game. I don't want to like stretch a tune out. I just want to.
So there is a game, isn't there?
This is with like standards.
Right. So standards and jazz players will push you. And I know I got pushed a lot when I first started coming in with my harp, and people would be like, "Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you deal with this? Can you deal with this?"
And it's sometimes it can be like snippy, but sometimes
it's just to see what's our vocabulary, how far can I push you without you falling apart. Let me ask you something that my students always ask me. What is a vamp? How do you define a vamp?
When someone plays the same, usually chords over and over again, open-ended with no particular specific end. It can be rhythmic and not necessarily kind of chord-based.
Okay, so is this a vamp?
Depends what it sort of sets up.
Okay, all right.
When you first played, I didn't hear it being a vamp. I had it heard being way too specific.
Okay.
Well, let's do it. Let's see where it goes. At that point, I wanted to be But at that point, I wanted to be a song, a tune. I wanted the form to happen. You know, vamp can conceivably go on like forever.
Okay, so let me come.
So as a vamp.
Okay, let me see. Try to take this in.
Like a vamp should be able to build.
Oh, should be able to build.
Yeah, like you vamp until something else happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Were you ready for it to stop being a vamp or not?
I was thinking about it all along. I said, okay, how am I indicate you I'm ready to go into this song which does not exist yet?
Right.
So if it doesn't go long enough, it's just like an intro. The thing you played before felt more like an intro.
Okay,
it felt like there was a finite number of times it should happen.
Okay.
Then it just got kind of like too much, you know.
Yeah,
so
okay,
it didn't allow enough openness like a vamp may open.
Okay.
So a vamp can happen as an intro. It can happen as part of a solo. It can happen as like an interlude.
And it can happen as an ending as well.
Yeah.
Right, but I really love that you're saying that. So, and because they just asked me the other day, how is a vamp different than an intro?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, a vamp could be used as an intro, and an intro could be used as a vamp, but there are other
Yeah,
characteristics to it.
vamp has to have like an open-ended feel to it, like that can go, that can build and go in many directions. An intro is much more set. It isn't. You're not supposed to be exploring through an intro. I mean, you're supposed to be.
Oh, right. You're supposed to be setting up.
Yeah.
Unless it's a vamp. Okay.
Oh yeah. So I'm just a
Yeah,
non-vampy intro.
Right, okay.
A vamp intro allows you to explore a lot
Okay,
more
right.
and set something up that may not lead to where the audience, the listener, thinks it's going to lead to. In other words, you could take it in a very different leaning direction. Then when the song actually starts, oh wow, sort of surprising. The vamp led me somewhere else. An intro, I mean, should usually really set up the song. Really,
Okay, so let's take a song. Let's take a song I could play on this harp. Which, I could play the beginning of Blue Bossa, but let's pick something even simpler, like I don't want to play Blue Moon, but what's like really diatonic, like really. So let's just say that. I won't be able to play the whole thing, but and that's and that's swing as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's tell me how I would make a vamp for that.
Okay, just pedal on the G7 sus. We could have made that.
Right. Yeah. And how did right. And how did I know that? How did I know that you were doing that?
Because of the way I played looser, I sort of probably nodded to if you were looking.
And you also referred to the bass note.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, so many interesting things happen. So the part where I got to the, when I got to that part.
Well,
I know, but it was great because it worked out like, I don't know if you know, like this, it was like a break.
Oh,
sort of worked out.
interesting.
So let's do that, for example.
Okay.
Let's do the tune up to that.
But now
part.
I think I know the harp.
Okay.
Okay, wait, the intro again?
No, it's just trying to fix each other.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Made it into kind of built into part of the arrangement.
Interesting. See, now I would be like, she doesn't know what she's doing.
I know, yeah. Well, I mean, I knew you couldn't find the chord.
Right.
You told me you would be able to. You said you were going to play part of it.
Right.
So let's do it, but this time, end more. Don't even look for the chord.
Okay,
just end like so.
Okay,
it seems more like an arrangement.
1, 2, 3.
I blew because I didn't play something. It's like, let me play one more time.
Okay, all right.
Just like more demonstrative.
Okay. All right, so just leave out like kind of.
Yeah, just we did. Yeah, just.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. see. So you made a gesture like, hey, I'm taking over.
Exactly, yeah,
And then
yeah,
I made
yeah.
a gesture like, hey, we're coming back in.
Exactly, yeah. That wouldn't have happened if you were played through that with the normal chords.
Right.
It would have seemed like kind of weird or something. So,
wow.
which brings me to another point. It's like, what I tell my students
Yes.
is that the most important thing for my instrument, but this goes for any instrument, I think, is like knowing what to do, being that kind of like an instant arranger.
Right,
Everyone has
okay,
that
yes.
arranging sensibility.
Right.
Where to play, what do I play
Right.
in different sections. So it's sort of, if I play this is a big horn player thing. If I play a part, or people expect, if I play a line behind a singer, for example, are people expecting me to repeat the line? Will they sort of, are in other
Are you
words-
setting up expectations?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
all
that's
right.
the arranging component. Like everything I do can presumably signal to somebody else. Is what
signal.
to do. On a bigger sense. No, we're not talking
Right.
about the smaller, like indirect
Right.
languages. But let's say, okay, let's do the same tune.
Okay.
I'm gonna put an arrangement thing into
Okay.
it.
And I'm going to do the same thing, or we don't know?
Well, you're gonna
We don't
respond
know.
to them to see how much
Okay.
I'm arranging.
Okay.
1, 2, Yeah.
Okay, so did I respond?
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay, so what did I respond to? I responded to your articulation, for
Articulation
sure.
in the field that the rhythmic field the articulation created. That you weren't articulating with me, you were playing something that supported my articulation. So it's like, with the funny thing, we probably have very different sets of musical references. So I heard I'm going to do this maybe like a 1932 dance band might do. The horns would be doing something.
Right.
Just something like that in the middle of
right.
the section, and you picked up on, obviously this is not a 1930s dance band, so it wasn't going to be like that.
Right.
You picked on a feel that was supportive of that, then the next 8 bars, how'd you know it's going to do that? Probably because I sustained that note and made it louder.
Yep, right. And you Right, so because as an accompanist,
Yeah.
I want to make whatever you're doing.
Exactly, yeah,
Like-
yeah. It was perfect, it's exactly what I wanted to have happen. And so there's just with the signal,
So my students are going to say, how did you know what to do? And I would say that I was making what I call a poetic translation of what you were doing. So this is a poetic translation.
My students have enough problems just playing in tune. My students have enough problems just playing in tunes. It's the most understanding of poetic translation. But yes, no, it's perfect, well put. Yeah, it's like, it's like, it's sort of like dramatic.
Okay, yes, that's true, and that's
there's like a
true.
narrative going on.
Right.
How long could I stay with just the two of us doing that? It would be so, after all, it'd be like rather sort of kind of cute and interesting, it'd just be so hokey or something.
Right.
So it's like, so you guessed the narrative correctly. And I presumably fed you a line.
Yeah, I would say I didn't have any sense of guessing.
Well, no, yeah, I mean, you picked right. I said,
you were so clear.
Yeah, so I said, yes, the right word, you're absolutely right. You understood the narrative perfectly, yeah.
Oh, okay, understood the narrative.
and
So
then-
you understood what the other person was saying to you.
Yeah. And then when it happens, the same thing happened on the second half of the tune. Let's do that, but I did a slightly different thing.
Yeah, you also changed the rhythm. It seemed to get very, anyway. Maybe,
Yeah,
wait a minute, I would love to get the chords here, so.
Okay.
think I can follow that,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. Whatever you're doing is close enough, no problem.
Okay, well, whatever. Okay, cool.
I made you a different narrative.
Okay, I'm gonna follow anything.
But the bigger point is that, like, people ask what I do. Well, all we did was play the head pretty much straight, and already has like an interesting thing going on.
True,
Which also
right.
means that almost anything we play after that will sound nice because it's contrasting. So
Well, let's go on and see what
okay.
happens then.
So we'll do it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to do an
actually
intro?
started that. It
Okay.
did happen. It did happen with a kind of immediate contrast that you picked up. You started playing more time.
Okay,
Right, as like
all right,
influence.
okay.
Yeah.
So let's see, let's,
Intro.
wanna do
Of
an intro?
that.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's
let's do an intro this time. We did that before.
Oh, okay, yeah, what would an intro be like? Oh, I don't know what that would be like.
Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba, ba-ba, ba-da.
Okay.
6, 2, 5, 7. that.
I even
Yeah.
almost got those chords.
Yeah, that's great though. And how, like, I mean, so every chorus felt different, right?
Sure, yeah.
And so, sometimes it was set up by the previous chorus, sometimes it was markedly different, obviously, when you had your solo.
Right.
Sometimes it was less, less markedly different, but still. And it's, to my mind, so much of music, including the arranging component, is all set up with contrast, kind of like setting up something like this compositional, coming up with something different. And it's all set up by the clarity that we had on the head. And it wasn't the same head. It wasn't the same head we did last time. It was a little bit less, more sophisticated. It was more subtle in terms of it wasn't so kind of like obvious, but it still had some of that. But just having that structure itself, doesn't even matter what the structure is, allows the next chorus to be less structured. Do you know what I mean?
So the clarity of the head allows the next.
Right.
So the character.
Yeah.
If you'd say the character of the melody is clarity.
Right, or the gesture, as you would say. The gesture of the first chorus is like clarity and.
You mean the head?
Yeah, the clarity. Sorry, yes.
And then you might want to contrast each of the
exactly by sort of being looser. Okay, so something happened in the second chorus. I think you didn't know if I was going to extend the ending.
Right.
And so I sort of was listening to you, and then I fed you when it goes to the minor.
That's right, and that's when I knew that I needed to come in, but until then I wasn't sure.
Yeah, right, and how did I do that? Because I played that phrase straighter.
Oh,
so it's like, and you heard it obviously, so it's like, and then we were into the tune.
That's really funny. It reminds me of, I remember I was in Germany once and I couldn't understand what anybody said. But we were in Bavaria, which has like the worst accent. And then a friend of mine took me to his mother's house and she was talking to me and I could understand everything she said. And when we left, I asked him, how did I understand your mother? And he was like, well, she was being kind in how she was speaking to you. She was feeding you what she was saying.
I thought you were going to say she was speaking English.
No. She was speaking English with a German accent. Did you not notice? No, but there was that way of you, and I think that's another thing my students wouldn't necessarily understand. How did you feed that to me? Well, you just said it. You actually played the phrase, so like you were pointing to me, this is where I am.
Yeah. Well, also the realization that I know you as a musician well enough to know that you weren't lost, you just were unsure what I was doing, so I wanted to make it clear that I was doing, so I knew where you were at, why you were doing what you're doing, and it's like, I said, oh, okay, she thinks from what I played before, understandably it was a vamp. Since we've been talking about that,
we might have done that. Also, I just love hanging on those chords.
Yeah. So it's like and then I said, well, I'll show her. I'll give her a clear signal that I'm ready for her to go on. Because ordinarily I sort of wouldn't play the melody, Again,
you wouldn't play that. And also in that style, you wouldn't extend that, especially if you were playing with other people.
Right.
You never would.
Yeah. Maybe at the end. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Like we did.
Right.
I think at the end. Yeah. But no, because you'd be expecting them to follow the form.
Right, okay.
And I wouldn't have done it except the fact we just talked about it.
Right. Cool.
So,
So, I think we should end.
Okay.
Although, I mean, I would keep talking, I mean, and I want to do this again. And again, and again, and again. So what would be our last things that we would like to say? I mean, what do I want people to come away? Well, I want my students to be able to come away with, especially people with the harp, because the harp it's sometimes really hard to find the chords and if you get off. So to understand that it's okay, you can either drop out or you can not do it perfectly and then you come back in, you let it go and you come back in. That would be one thing I'd want them to know.
Okay, my thing is that, which sort of sets up my thing is that like, I don't have like great technique. A lot of my students have much better technique than I have. But I know how to kind of use it in terms of like arranging stuff to serve my strengths and how to use it with someone else. So if like you like, my thing is more kind of I think like general musical skills, listening, know how to communicate something, know when someone else plays something, what they're communicating, using dynamics, and also just conceptually like, knowing what to play next or having confidence what I play next. That's probably my strongest trait.
So one of the things
and then figuring out how can I work on my technical limitations to make it work.
Well, that I think is actually where I want to go to, is that I teach students, my students are not children, they're adults. Many of them are coming to the harps late in life as a second career. And I believe that anyone can have and create and share a peak musical experience if they can figure out how to work with their technical ability.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think it's really hard for people to do that, to figure out how to work, how to actually create, okay, tell me about it.
Okay, so, sorry.
What's the answer? Yeah.
So what I tell my students, again, we're playing improvised music.
Right,
We're
okay,
not talking about
right.
classical music. We're
Right, and I'm
doing
teaching improvisation.
Yeah,
Right?
so it's like, to me, the biggest thing is people are scared that, oh my God, I'm not good at playing in the key of F sharp, you know?
Right,
So
okay.
my thing is, it's like, well, you have a toolkit. That's what I call it, a toolkit,
Okay.
so of all the things you're able to do.
Okay.
That's what we're gonna look at. We're gonna be sort of positive about this and that. And your toolkit, you have to assemble your tools. This makes it sound so pedantic, but it's not. This is, to me, the most creative part.
Okay.
Being able to use the tools. Look, I'm playing a clarinet, I'm not playing a trumpet. I have to use I wouldn't play outside the range of the instrument because it doesn't exist. So my toolkit, first thing is a
Okay.
clarinet. Second thing, I hope I have a good read on, or whatever it might be.
Okay.
But let's say otherwise, I'm gonna organize my strengths and weaknesses to make the best use of them. So let's say I'm playing a tune in the key of C, which even I can play in C. But the bridge goes to, this doesn't really happen, let's say F sharp, okay? So I'm gonna set up my soloing, and there's a form, it's A, B, A, A in the C's, in the key of C, B in F sharp, and A in, last day is C again. So I'm gonna set up my structure so that when it gets to the F sharp part, I'm gonna play really simply, because that's all I can do in F sharp. So how do I set that up? Maybe by playing more sophisticatedly and sort of more ambitiously in the key of C. Okay? But I can't play just ambitiously in the key of the C the entire time, so it's going to sound sort of boring.
Right, okay.
So may I play the first A section simply?
Okay.
Say second A section, I'm going to take a lot of liberties because I can really get around in C.
Okay.
So it's building that way, then I'm going to pull back the bridge in a different way when it gets to F sharp that I couldn't do in the key of, that I can't play the technical stuff. I may play it differently than I played the simple thing in C, because there are even more limitations in F sharp.
Right.
So and then when I get back to C again, for the last 8 bars, I might kind of play differently than I did in C before, but probably
So
slowly.
that's similar to kind of what we did when I pulled out and you played more.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I were playing in C, and that would be a perfect example for me, because I'm in F sharp. So let's
Right.
say I'm playing in C.
Yeah. Exact, perfect, yeah. Perfect, better than I could demonstrate it, yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I emphasized the thing I did know, which was the F sharp.
Exactly.
I knew probably it had a C sharp too, so
Uh-huh.
I used repetition there.
Yeah. And you eliminated the things that were like gonna be sort of like difficult, you couldn't pull off anyway.
I eliminated them.
But by doing that, it made the music sound so much more interesting than trying to do something to do in
Right.
F sharp that would sound just like the C. You don't want
Right.
to. And B, if you're gonna play in a key like that, might as well do something really interesting, because it's like.
And that makes me think about going back to my romance. If I could have remembered what the actual chords were in the part I had
Right.
trouble with, I literally could have just gone,
Right.
which probably is what it was.
Or even more interesting though, not play anything at all, and let me sort of
Right.
use the arrangement.
And I couldn't let myself do that.
Uh-huh,
I was like,
understand,
but that, I mean, that's, in my head was like, no, you can't, you must be able to
Right.
do this.
Uh-huh.
So
So,
I'm still
yeah.
guilty of the same thing.
But also we're arranging for 2 people. I wouldn't ask you to do, in other words, we're arranging sort of both our strengths and limitations, right?
Right.
That,
Oh, wow. That's great. So if people play with other people, it's really great for them to talk about what their strengths and limitations are, so that they can, nobody ever does that, but if you're playing with a friend,
Yeah.
you can do that.
right, but also we talk about it musically, as you figure it out.
Oh, I
I'm
see,
not playing
right.
bebop lines on top of
Right.
what you're doing. I'm sort of playing more melodically or something like that.
Okay, all right, so you're filling the
Yeah.
sound, filling the
Yeah,
sound from
yeah.
that. All right, so that's great. So what we talked about and what we want to share that's so
Uh-huh.
hard is that idea of how you can use what you have
Yes.
and actually feel like there's no limitation.
Exactly,
Because
yeah.
I don't feel like there's a limitation if I'm playing with you until I try to do something I can't do. And if I stick with what I can do, it's just joy.
Yeah, I do feel limitations all the time. I'm imposed externally, And I do wish I could play faster tempos. I do wish, my tech's not as bad technically as I try to make it out to be, but I wish I could play faster tempos, things like that. But I've also accepted this is what I do, this is what I do best, and sort of why, this is like playing an F sharp, why do something
Right.
that I can't do?
Well, let me just ask you one last thing. Do you feel, you may feel limitations playing with other people about fast,
Yeah.
but would you feel that with me?
Probably not, yeah.
Okay, and why? Because we're inventing new stuff.
Inventing new
Okay.
stuff. You're not kind of like a bebop burner kind of thing.
Right,
There's not
okay.
a rhythm section.
We're not
driving,
playing that game.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not the game we're
yeah,
playing. Okay,
yeah.
great.
Which is why I
Thank
like this, yeah.
Yeah, me
Thank
too.
you. Ken. Yeah,
This was
thanks
really
so
fun. I
much.
hope everybody got something out of this.
Yeah.
I surely did.
Me
and I
too,
look
yeah.
forward to
And that's
next time.
another thing,
We're not ending. Oh, this is a, okay, keep going.
always learning, the stuff we're talking about is not theoretical. It's stuff that I use in my life, musical life all the time, you know. And other people I know do it without maybe being so aware of it, but it's just every player playing this sort of improvised music plays to their strengths.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the reasons that I love doing this with you, is because we both love to actually break it down and talk about it and get
Yeah.
aware of it and get
Yeah.
more aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll get better at the endings.
Yeah.
At the ending of this. I feel so
It's-
awkward at the end of it.
Oh,
but
it's,
yay!
it's genuine. This is
Yes.
all in the ending too.
Right,
it's
exactly.
all genuine, all real.
I loved this. I loved it the first time, and I loved it this time.
I remember loving saying like, yeah, so why are we not doing it more? Is it like,
Oh, us not doing, why are we not doing this more?
yeah, no,
We're
I mean,
not-
that's what I was thinking. It's just like maybe, I mean, I knew you liked it, sort of, but maybe, you know, it's like you get caught up in other stuff and sort of forget, like, you know, just how much fun it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And